Hi again, folks. Dr. H here, and finally, we're getting to the week 3 introduction. I do apologize again for the delay. You may have noticed in looking on the OnMusic website that there are only 3 days to week 3, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. This is on purpose, this is by design. So if you've looked at these, you probably understand why now because of the intense subject matter. For week 3, for Monday, you were supposed to have looked at building major scales 2, key signatures 2, and major scales ascending and descending. For Wednesday, applying key signatures, all major sharp scales and key signatures, all scales with flats and key signatures. And then Friday, they're going to introduce yesterday, they would have introduced the circle of fifths. Now, if you are a little leery of this, or if you've had some difficulty with it, please do not panic. I am going to extend the deadline. I don't think it's fair for you to have done this all on your own. But if you have, then please, by all means, progress ahead. No need to worry. I did receive some emails from some of you expressing some concern, so I'm here to try to alleviate your fears and to hopefully bring you up to speed on what's going to be happening for week 3 so that we can also look at week 4. So we're going to begin with just looking at each day, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I will walk you through the lessons just like I did for week 2. And then we'll just simply uh, progress ahead. If you have any questions, again, please do email me. I am on campus next week. I will be on campus Tuesday after Labor Day, and I will also be on campus Thursday for a bit. So if you want to meet with me face to face and discuss any portion of the class, please feel free to email me and set up a time to do that, or you're welcome just to walk into the S Wing at Delta College and into my office, which is S239. So I look forward to working with you over the course of the next couple of weeks. We should be able to get caught up. I do want to mention that the midterm is supposed to be this coming Monday, which is a holiday for us, Memorial Day. So I'm going to postpone the midterm so that we can have a chance to catch up. And I'll fill you in on when that's going to be. So don't worry about the midterm. Don't worry about trying to take it on Monday. That is a holiday. I don't expect anyone to do it, although if you are ready and you want to take it, go ahead. There's nothing to stop you from doing that. But I am going to postpone the deadline on that so that you don't have to take it right away. Okay, so let's begin by looking at Monday. Okay, folks, so we're going to begin by looking at what would have been this past Monday, May 22nd's lesson. I'd like to reiterate once again that if you've already completed these lessons and assignments, by all means, don't worry. Progress like you would ordinarily. If you need a refresher, by all means, continue to view the videos. I'm going to have a separate video for each of the days in this week because it is rather extensive material. So let's start with building major scales. Now, according to what we've learned in last week's about major scales, we looked at the pattern or learned about the pattern of whole steps and half steps that make up a major scale. We looked at using tetrachords to build a major scale. Remember, tetra is that Greek word meaning 4, and you have whole, half, right? Whole step, half step, whole step, right? And that same pattern continues in the last 4 tones of a major scale. So you have 2 tetrachords, one at the bottom, one at the beginning. If you read in this little area here talking about tetrachords, 2 tetrachords of any major scale have identical patterns of whole and half steps. Thus, any tetrachord of a major scale may be used as the basis of a new major scale. Now, folks, I want you to understand that we're building major scales now outside of the realm of key signatures. we're looking at scales just by their construction. Okay, we're not actually looking at the way musicians would be looking at music for performance sake. Music theorists, yes, we would look at it this way because we break things down into their smaller components and we do some analysis. But as far as performing music goes, no musician looks at it this way all the time. If we look at what they're talking about here, before we start, please keep in mind one very important point, and this is important. When building sharp scales, we used the ascending C major scale. When building flat scales, we will use the descending C major scale. Now, they're talking about relating everything to this pattern from C to C, C, D, E, F, G. If you look in this area right here, that's what they're talking about. See up here is C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. And I just want you to be aware that they're relating everything to this because what we're going to be seeing is sharps applied to this scale and flats applied to this scale. So it says here that building major scales that use flats. Let's start with that. There are 7 major scales that use flats. We will use the second tetrachord of the descending C major scale. So they're talking about these 4 notes right here. Okay? And let's pull up the keyboard so you can see where those are. Right here, right? So those are the 4 notes that we're using. And then it says we will use the second tetrachord of the descending major scale, F, E, D, C. Watch here, F, E, D, C. I'm gonna move the piano out of the way for a second. And then it says we're going to use that as the first tetrachord of a new major scale starting on F. So remember that F is the subdominant, the 4th scale degree. And you can think of it like this if you count from the bottom up, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. There's F. Okay, so just make sure, and they've got them numbered here for you as well. And they also have the half steps and the whole steps marked. Remember that rule that there's a half step between the 3rd and 4th degree and a half step between the 7th and 8th degree of any major scale. That never changes. Okay, so it says, remember too, that to build a sharp scale, we went up from the tonic to the dominant, C, D, E, F, G, right? We started on G to build our sharp scale and used G as the start of the new major scale. To build flat scales, we will go down from the tonic to the subdominant, C, B, A, G, F. So they're going to that note right there. And use F as the start of the new scale. So the following interactive exercise illustrates this process, okay? So it says just click show me. So let's do that. Showing you where the first tetrachord is and where the second tetrachord is, okay? Now, shift to F major. Now watch what's going to happen when I click that. See what happened? And notice what we had to do to get that sound of a major scale. Now I'm going to bring the keyboard back up. I want you to notice something. If I play these notes, I'm going to play them bottom up for right now, okay? I'm going to play them on the keyboard. Watch what happens. If I don't flat that note, it doesn't sound right. And that's because without flatting that note, I wouldn't have that half step between the 3rd and the 4th degree. Now you might say, okay, well, what about that half step that's supposed to happen between the 7th and the 8th degree? Well, if we look at that piano keyboard again, we remember the 7th degree in this case is an E and the 8th degree is an F. Well, if we look at E and F, there's no black key in between, so that is in fact a half step. So it's all there. So let's make sure we understand. We're going to do this again. Here's our C major tetrachord descending, right? 2 tetrachords, right? There's the first one. Here's the second one. Those are two tetrachords putting together to make the C major scale. I might also point out that this major scale does not use any accidentals. No accidentals in a C major scale, okay? Now we're going to shift to F major. There it is. And there's that B flat to give us that F major tonality and the half step between the third and the fourth degree. Okay, so I hope that is clear for everyone. Now, it says to play this interactive animation and click on the different components as many times as necessary until you have fully understood the following. Now, this is what you're supposed to get from this. The first tetrachord in F major is F, E, D, C. It is identical to the second tetrachord in C major. That's what they're trying to show you. Okay, this tetrachord, F, E, D, C, is exactly the same as this tetrachord. So we have to go back through and let it show us again. And then we shift to F major and we get, okay, so hopefully you're getting this idea of the two tetrachords. The F major scale may be completed by adding a second tetrachord, B, A, G, F, which it does, right? B, A, G, F. It is, however, necessary to lower the scale degree, number 4 of B, which is B, by using a flat. So that way we get this proper sequence of whole steps and half steps, okay? So by lowering B natural to B flat, we have a newly built F major scale. And we can see here that it conforms to the rule of whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Now I'm a little in conflict with the way your online text is presenting this because it's presenting it from the top down. I'm not sure the reasoning behind that, but it's good for you to understand that scales can be played both ascending and descending. They don't always have to go up. They can come down, just like a melody can have rises and falls. Okay, so the rule. The new flat in a major scale with flats is always the 4th scale degree. So I want you to understand what they're talking about. Every time you have to add a flat accidental to another scale that begins on a flat, it's always going to be, that new flat is always going to be the 4th degree. And we're going to figure out this. Don't panic. You'll see how it becomes pretty evident. But let's say it says here in the interactive animation above, we build an F major scale by taking the second tetrachord of a descending C major scale and adding the tetrachord B flat A G F to complete the scale. Play a descending C major scale on your virtual piano and now play the second half, F, E, D, C, and go on to play. So what they're just asking you to do is to practice that. So you start on C. Okay, you get that first tetrachord, stopping on G, but now you're going to do the next tetrachord. And you're going to go on. Well, if you're going to go on, remember we have to lower, right? We have to lower that B. Right? Okay, so hopefully that is clear to you. Now we need to ask the question, does the new tetrachord, B, A, G, F, fit the whole, whole, half descending pattern? In other words, is there a half step between the 3rd and 4th scale degree? And the answer is no. That's why we have to lower it. So this is kind of giving you a look back at why we do what we do. The point to grasp here is that every major scale has that association or has that organization of whole steps and half steps, right? Between the half steps between the 3rd and 4th degree and the 7th and 8th degree. As long as they are present, either going up or coming down, you're going to have a major scale. So if we look at it from bottom up and we listen to it, The problem that with this diagram is that it's missing the flat symbol. So hopefully they will you will see that in subsequent lessons. But now we're going to look at building a scale starting on what they're calling the second tetrachord of the F major scale. So starting here, B, okay? Now, if we were to continue down from B flat to A to G to F, and we went to E, we already know that F to E is a half step, and that's not what we want between the third and fourth degree. We want a whole step. Well, guess what? We're going to have to add that flat. So when we look at it at the scale here, we start on B flat, go up to C to D to E, right? And look, E has been lowered. That's the new flat that's been added. And guess what? It sure enough is that fourth degree, 1, 2, 3, 4. So when we look at it, we can see it. Let's see if it's broken down for us on this next page. Here we are looking at something called the order of flats. Now, this is a significant thing for you to consider in that flat key signatures always appear in exactly the same position in both the treble and the bass clef, okay? This sequence mirrors the order in which flats appear in the keys that use them. The first key to have flat is F major. We've already learned that. We've already looked at the scale for F major, and it uses 1 flat. We even looked at the B flat scale, and we know that it uses 2 flats. So we keep adding flats, right, for every scale. Now, let's see what it says here. There's all the flats. Okay, 7 flats, right? And they always appear in this same order. Now you might remember that B flat, this first one, we used for the key of F. None of the other flats showed up. But for the key of B flat, or for the scale for B flat, we had one more flat added, E flat. Identifying flat key signatures. It says in a major key signature, the last flat is always the subdominant of the tonality. The next to the last flat, therefore, is the tonic or the name of the key. So when you're looking at flat key signatures, all you have to do is go to this next to the last flat. Now I'm going to show you again. There's 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the order. And here we go. B, E, A, D, G, C, and F. That's something significant as well to consider. B, E, A, D, G, C, F. And you can also remember this from a little acronym. Battle ends and down goes Charlie's friend. Now, you might remember from the order of sharps that we discussed, it's exactly the opposite. Remember, fat cats go down alleys eating bugs. Well, now we have battle ends and down goes Charlie's friends. It's exactly the opposite of the order of sharps. And all you got to do is go to the next to the last one. And the next to the last one here is C. So this would be the key of C flat. We can apply this rule to this key signature here. Let's take a look at it. What would the next to the last flat be? Well, here's the order right here. B, E, A, D, G, C, F. Well, B, E, A, D. We've used those 4 flats to make this key. What's the next to the last one? A. So this is the key of A flat, and there is an A flat scale. And they are showing you with the little mini keyboard here, right? And this is highlighting the notes as you play them. C. You can even click on the note, right? There's the note, right? E flat is the next one, right? E is flat according to the key signature, okay? Right? F is not flat. There's no flat on the F. No flat on the G, right? And A is, of course, flat. So you might note, right? Whenever there's not a flat, we're playing white keys. Okay, so study the examples below. Notice that in each case, right, the last flat in the key signature is the subdominant of the scale. That means that it is, the subdominant is the 4th degree of the scale. 4th degree, right? 4th degree, always. So the next to the last then is always going to be the tonic. So F major, flat. B is flat. The 4th degree is flat. B flat major. Both B is flat, right? And E is flat. Here we have the key of E flat major. B is flat, E is flat, and A is flat. All right, building flat key signatures. To build a key signature with flats, follow these 3 simple steps. In the order of flats, B, E, A, D, G, C, F, find the name of the key that you want to build in a key signature. So let's say we want to build the key of E flat, okay? E. So we go to that key. There it is. Then it says count all the flats up to that point and add 1 more flat beyond it. Then you have the total number of flats. So we're going to build the key for E flat. There's E. We count 1, 2, and 1 more, A. And sure enough, that means we've got 3 flats. Look here, E flat, and A flat. We have those 3 flats. Not really a challenge if you look at it in this way. So I encourage you to revisit this again and again and again. So now we look at what's happening with this exercise, major scales ascending and descending. So this is saying in the following exercises, you'll be asked to build ascending and descending major scales by dragging and dropping notes from a note palette into the staff, okay? And then you're going to have also a palette of accidentals as well, right? See that? So let's do it. Let's see what happens. It says to choose the accidentals before dragging the note to the staff, okay? There's a good rule to follow. Accidentals, ladies and gentlemen, are always placed on the left side of the note head, always. You want to see the accidental before you play the note. That's a good way of thinking of it. I want to see that the note's going to be flat before I play it and then go, oh, I was supposed to play that flat. Some musicians today don't follow this rule and it doesn't sound very good when they don't. So yeah, let's do this as soon as I can find the start. Oh yeah, the forward arrow. So let's see what happens. Okay. So it's asking us to build an E major scale. Okay. Now E, there on the bottom, beginning in octave 5, so I guess they're asking us to do it here. And I wonder if they want us to do a descending or, oh, they do, an ascending. Now, G is going to be sharp. How do I know this? Because between F and G, oh, you know what? I did this wrong. This is wrong. I wonder how you can... I guess I need to... Well, I guess we need to clear the last. Ah, there we go. So sharp and F. There we go. All right. Because we want a whole step between E and F, which this doesn't seem to want to let me do. There we go. E to F sharp is a whole step. Okay. Also, F sharp to G, that would be a half step. We want a whole step between F sharp and G, a whole step between the 2nd and the 3rd degree. Now, G sharp to A is a half step, and we do want a half step between G sharp and A. B is also going to be natural. C is going to be sharp. Okay, don't forget you can hit that clear last. And then D is also going to be sharp. And time ran out, so there you go. We'll do this again. E, F sharp, G sharp, A natural, oops, I do not want that. Yes, A natural. Come on, there we go. B natural, C sharp, D sharp, and E natural. That should do it. Okay, there you go. Now once again, this is a practice mode, so you can do this as many times as you want, okay? So just play around with it, see how far you get. Don't forget that you can also click the back button, right? You can always go back and take a look at other things. I am not certain. Let's just see what happens if you can keep that. You can't keep the keyboard up. That's unfortunate. Yeah. So let's take a look at major scales descending. This is where you would write the scale down. Now they're asking for an E flat major scale beginning in octave 4. Well, that would be down here. This would be your E flat major scale, and you're going to need the flat, right, because you're starting on E flat. So you drag that note down. And we want D natural. We want that half step between the 7th and 8th degree. Remember, folks, we're going to need 8 tones. C, we also going to need B flat. We're going to need A flat. Remember, we've got 3 flats in this scale. We're going to need B flat because every flat key signature has B flat in it. Oops, we got that one. Sorry, clear last. G is natural. F is also natural. And then, of course, E flat down here on the bottom. Okay, so hopefully you can do this without too much of a difficulty. All right, so applying key signatures is Wednesday's lesson, so we'll check that out for the Wednesday vid.